So, hello YouTube, it's me again. So, I wanted to talk to you this morning for two reasons. One, it looks like I wear the same outfit in every one of my videos, which I don't actually. I don't wear the same outfit every single day. I do videos like back to back to back, so that's why you see me wearing the same thing all the time. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, so yesterday we were talking about my bad blind date story, and I hope you all enjoyed that. So I know some of you probably watched that video and were like, wait, she didn't date till she was 18. It's actually quite true. I didn't actually date, I guess, officially until I was 18. And I think that comes from like Indian parents. Now, I want to tell you something about Indian parents. Okay, so I have two Indian parents, obviously, and they're immigrants. They came to this country many, many years ago. I am a first-generation Canadian. I was born here. And I don't know about the others that have Indian immigrant parents in the same sort of situation. But what I can tell you of immigrant parents is they have a very different way of raising their children, right? So when they come to this country, I think there's a little bit of a fear. Like, if we let the kids outside, they're going to become Americanized. And not only are they going to become Americanized, because I don't think my father had the problem with that, it's, oh my God, they're going to get killed. And I mean, I grew up in the time of, I was a young child in the time of when Karla Homolka and Paul Bernardo and the Scarborough rapist and that whole thing went down. And, you know, they were saying, you know, if you're a young woman and you lived in Scarborough or Pickering, and that's where I'm from, Pickering. You didn't guess that from the video yesterday. So, yeah, if you lived in that time when that was happening, you know, you locked your doors and you were really frightened. And so I get where that fear came from. So, you know, when you have Indian parents, there's one thing that you can count on is you're not going to anybody's house unless A, your parents come with you and they're friends with them, so you go to their house and they happen to have children, and it doesn't matter if you like these children or you know these children, this is now your friend because they're the only kids in the house. Like, I remember being like 4 years old and like the kid that lived in one of my parents' friends' houses was 11. Like, what are 4-year-old and 11-year-old going to do? Like, that 11-year-old, he sat down and he played, like, video games. I mean, video games at that point was, like, your Nintendo. But, like, he sat down and played video games, and they gave me a fucking rag doll to play with. And that's what we did for 6 hours. I sat down and I fucking brushed this fucking doll's hair for 6. I wanted to, like, I was like, I'm so bored. And so, or they, like with my parents, which was very unusual because most Indian parents don't do this. So my parents met, you know, I told you I had a friend of mine that when I was 8 years old, I would go to her house, right? And I mean, my dad went into her house and met her and talked to her and probably got like a criminal background check for the last 10 years out of her before he let me be alone in her house with her. You know, and it's just so funny that Indian parents are so protective. And I want to say right now, you know, this is the difference between that generation to this generation, because my children, you know, I'm going to be a little bit more lenient. True, I'm going to be very careful about who interacts with my children and their friends and stuff. And I'm going to be trying to be discerning about who I allow into the home and everything else. But I want them to make their own choices about friends. I want them to learn the lessons, because I think as an adult now, I wasn't truly prepared on how to make friends and how to understand what a good person looks like and a bad person looks like, because I wasn't allowed to make that choice. Choices were made for me. You know, whoever I hung out with at school was the only choice I was allowed to make, and I wasn't socialized properly. Like, as an Indian kid, you're not really allowed to go out and play. That's not something you do, you know, like you're in the house with your parents and you sit and you read your books or you watch your TV or whatever. And I mean, I was very versed in social culture, what it looked like from the inside, but I wasn't versed on how to make friends. And I think I still struggle with this as an adult, how to make friends and how to see the good in people and the bad in people. And I mean, that's something I'm learning, right, as I go along. wrong. My bullshit detector isn't as developed as, say, somebody who had that experience as a kid, who was told to go outside and play and hang out with the good kids versus the bad kids. And so I want my children to have that experience. And I think that I don't think it's just an Indian thing. I think there's like Chinese people who do this, and British people who do this, and whoever. And what I'm saying to you is, if you are really that protective of your kids, right, and you're just holding on to them so incredibly tight like that, what happens is when they get a bit of freedom, because once I turned 18, people, and I mean, I was not a bad kid. I was, straight A's, honor student. But I mean, I turned 18 and I went buck ass wild. Like, I went clubbing, I went drinking, I went, I smoked a little bit of something. I did all the things that your parents are supposed to stop you from doing, because I didn't have the experience of any freedom. So once I got a bit of freedom, I was 18. What were they going to do? They weren't going to do anything. I was an adult. I could join the army. I could vote. I could give blood. Yeah. So once I turned 18, I mean, I went buck wild, because I hadn't tasted freedom at all. So when I got a bit of freedom, I was like, man, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to listen to anybody. I'm not going to get grounded. I'm 18 years old. What are you going to do to me? So I think that if you give kids the slightest bit of freedom appropriate to their age. So if you have a 9-year-old, well, you give them 9-year-old freedom. Well, you can pick your own friends. You can stay out until, there used to be a complex that my friend used to live in, and it was, you could stay out until the street lights went out, because there was a few street lights that would go out, I guess, power saving in Pickering, which is stupid because we have an energy plant, but there were a few street lights that go out. So once those street lights go out, you have to be indoors. So, but to a 9-year-old, and you're staying in the complex, you're not going out of the complex. I mean, to a 9-year-old, that's good enough freedom, and you can go to a friend's house after school, but you have to call me when you want to come get picked up if the friend didn't live in the complex, or, like, I will come and get you at such and such a time. You better be in front of this door. So, I mean, for a 9-year-old, that's freedom. For a 13-year-old, okay, a 13-year-old can babysit now. Like, I think the legal age to babysit now is 12, and you can babysit for 4 or 5 hours. So for a 13-year-old, it's okay, you can go to the mall by yourself, or, you can go to the library by yourself, or whatever, right? And,